This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to Prudent Money. Typically I do the program on the radio between 3 and 3:30. Then we take it and process it and get it all set up to go out to the podcasting platform where it goes into all the different sites that hold podcasts. And every once in a while, we have a problem with the connection between the station and my studio in the office. Well, when the internet's gone down, which it has at the station, no can do, can't do the recording. I can't do it live anyway. And I'm a little disappointed because Chuck Bentley's coming on the program today. We'll definitely reschedule him. He comes on once a month. I have several guests that come on once a month, and just real blessed to have the expertise in various different areas that gets covered on the program. But Chuck's a special guy. Probably knows more about stewardship, what the Bible says about stewardship, than anybody that I know. And he is the CEO of Crown Financial Ministries, crown.org, and also an author, a very talented author. And we talk about all kinds of things, consumer related. He goes out a little bit further. We talk about the trends that are worrisome, that are shaping our country is from a financial standpoint and from a cultural standpoint. And today we were going to talk about pay it now or buy it now, pay it later loans, and why you got to be real careful about that. Someone had sent in a email to Chuck, and I want to go and read this. It said, I heard buy now, pay later data will soon be reported to credit bureaus. There's actually a problem with that. I hope this is true. My daughter got into financial trouble during her first year out of college by getting sucked into these easy payment plans. How do I help her and her friends open their eyes to the dangers of this type of debt? I would say, how do you open up your child's mind and their eyes to the danger of debt, period? I use this analogy. Tony Joe, if you listen on Fridays, he comes on the program, been doing this for decades. He comes on the program. We do the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Always enjoy doing the radio with Tony Joe. We just, it's real. One of the coolest things about doing radio, having guests on, excuse me, he's a little more than a guest. He comes on once a week. But what is really cool is the chemistry that you build and how that chemistry works as through conversation on the radio. But he was telling me that, the problem with one of the most important things that you can do for your car is do the oil change, the recommended oil change at the recommended mileage and so forth and so on. And he goes, people just don't listen to this. It kind of goes one through one ear and out the other because it costs money. It's a pain to go get it done. It kind of cuts into your weekend, or whatever reason that you want to assign to it. I can assign all kinds of reasons to not doing it. But he said, you know what I need to do? I need to talk about how bad things get if you don't get an oil change, and how you can ruin a motor and how expensive it can be to replace that motor, and on and on and on. I think that's how you get your kids to understand about debt. You talk to them about all the very, very bad things that can happen if you get overextended, if you get to a point where you default on a debt, if you miss a payment, and then you went from paying 15%, which is high anyway, but 15% all the way to 29%. And if you default, how the debt collectors will be calling you, how you'll ruin your credit, how it'll affect your ability to get a job, and just go on, and how it can even cause legal problems. You go on and on and on and tell them this is what it looks like. And I know that just watching my own two boys get their first credit card, and I check on them and make sure that they're staying responsible with it. It does work, and it does not just scare them, but it paints a very dim reality. I talked about this last week is that credit card companies, although they'll offer all these really cool things and ways for you to get the best of instant gratification, to be able to buy it now, pay it later, or no interest, or however they set it up, they are not in it to be your friend. They're in it to make money, and it's a trap. And that is the truth. I believe that more than anything. I think I believe it so much because I got really deep into the detail when I wrote my book, Deceptive Money, which is all about credit card debt, how to get out of it, and just about how deceptive, that's what I call it, deceptive money, how deceptive these companies are in loaning out money, giving it away as if it were candy, and then the consequences that go along with that as we go through human nature. You know, one of my favorite stories is the Citibank, and they offered, I think it was Citi that offered a credit card with no fees, and they're marketing to the person. Obviously, let's cut to the chase. They're marketing to the individual that is late or has been late, didn't like the late fees, and they're advertising to that target market, which is a lot of people. And they're saying no matter what happens, you will not get a late fee. So that on this commercial, they have this guy that's running late for work. He walks. In fact, I could see it. I could see the vision of this commercial. He passes by his kitchen table on his way out the door. He stops for a minute. He looks on the table, and he sees that the credit card bill is due. He panics because he knows he has to get it in today to get it there on time. And he says, "Oh, wait a minute. No, there's no late fees, no penalties or no anything like that. So I guess I'll go ahead and just pay when I get back." Well, what they don't tell you in the fine print, and they got in a lot of trouble for this, and they should have because it's very deceptive. What they tell you is they won't, if you miss a payment or you're late with the payment, they won't charge you the $39 or whatever it is for the late payment fee. But what they will do is they will penalize you by raising your rates to the penalty rates. So yeah, they're not going to charge you $38, but they're going to, that $10,000 you pulled over on a 0% transfer now is going to have an interest rate of 29%. Very, very deceptive. But you got to be very careful of what credit cards are doing and the credit trap, as I like to call it. In fact, that's what I almost called the book, is the credit trap. But I think somebody else has already written a book about credit traps. So let's shift and go on. What I'm doing today, by the way, I should be doing the radio show right now, but we had an internet problem at the station, couldn't do the program. So what I wanted to do was something that I don't really ever get the time to do, but do an actual podcast. We podcast every program, as you know, if you're listening right now. But this isn't on the radio. And what's cool about this is I can talk about things that I can't talk about on nonprofit radio because I can't. There's just a lot of things that's very restrictive. So if I get the urge to, I will. I'm just here to have a conversation with you today. Let's talk a little bit about the markets, because someone asked me, what's your main concern? And my concern is that people don't see the risk that's boiling over. From my vantage point, as I look at what's happening with the market, I see just about every marker that we are at a top. And what I mean by that is that the bull market that started in 2009 may be over right as we speak. That's what some of the people that I have a lot of admiration for their research are saying right now. But the vast majority of people are in for the easy money. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and about a stock, and no, actually, it's last week. Talking to somebody last week about a stock, two or three stocks they wanted to add to their portfolio, and I said, I just don't think right now is a really good time to add. And the answer was, well, I'm a long-term investor. Well, the question is, how would you feel if you put money into that stock, and over the course of 12 to 18 months, that stock dropped 65, 70%. And you're probably thinking, oh, Bob, nothing dropped 65 or 70%. The market absolutely could drop that much. Just on valuation alone could drop that much, just by a lot of different analytical indicators that say how overvalued the market is. I mean, this market is incredibly overvalued, more overvalued, and at least is what my research shows, than 1929, which was the great stock market crash, then the roaring 20s that led up to that with the big bull market. And this is what concerns me, is that people don't really see this risk. All they see is the market going up. Well, we're come Thursday, we are going to be in the thick of the election season. I know it hasn't felt like it, and what really just baffles me about it is that, let me back up. I bring that up because it inserts a lot of risk into the market because of the uncertainty. And one of the questions I was going to ask Chuck today on the program, if we had gone through with it, was what's surprise? Because I don't believe that this election cycle and the election itself is going to go without something happening. I don't wish something bad to happen. I just think something's going to be a surprise, and that we're going to sit back, a week later and go, "Wow, I didn't see that coming." I really do believe that. Then you can speculate and guess at what that means. I personally cannot see a situation where President Biden can make it through this election process. I don't wish that on him. This is not a pro-Trump or anything statement. I just don't see him having the cognitive and the physical ability to do it, which I think that, in fact, I think that it was, if you want conspiracy theory with this, see, I really wouldn't say this on the radio. I don't believe that it was ever intended for him to go through the election process. And so we'll see at the convention. Will he come out the Democrat, or to defend his office, or will there be somebody else? And you can get over the board speculative on so many names. Probably the one name that has been thrown out there that so many people go, "Oh no, that'll never happen," but you never know. Don't ever say never. Is Michelle Obama, and you can go crazy in your head with the different conspiracy theories that would go on with that one. But I just that's the thing that I think that could happen. I mean, I don't know so much about Michelle Obama, but him not finishing out and getting replaced. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting. What surprises me, just really surprises me, that they are neck and neck. They're, as of right now, they're tied. And why that surprises me is because the public can see the breakdown unfolding of his cognitive abilities. And supposedly, all of Donald Trump's legal problems has created this groundswell of support, but yet they're tied. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But my point is that interjects a lot of uncertainty into the markets. The markets know what they get with the Joe Biden presidency. Zero interference, zero anything, no problems, nothing. The market just gets to follow whatever the Federal Reserve Board is doing as far as pumping money into it, and they go on about their day. I don't know if that's good or bad, but then you go to the other extreme, and I'll never forget this on election night when I was watching the Dow futures. And when I say the Dow futures, what that means is I was watching what the stock market, it runs at night, and you can see exactly how it's performing, and that always affects, or generally affects, the way that it opens. But I remember the Dow being down, I think, close to 1,000 points because it was just announced, or it was looking like that Donald Trump was going to win the election. And a very, very dear friend of mine who manages money as well was sitting. Was over at my house and we were watching this. Just said, "Well, the market is speaking about how it feels about a Trump presidency." Then, just like that, he becomes president or gets nominated, elected, wins the vote, and the next day, the market is way down in the morning, and he gets on CNBC. I believe my memory serves me. He phoned in to CNBC, the financial news network, and he started telling about everything that he was going to do that was going to be stock market friendly, and the markets drank it like Kool-Aid. And I think there it was born that he knew he could talk the market into a positive market, a negative market. He could control the markets, and that's what he did for 4 years. He created optic after optic after optic, and the markets just jumped on every single optic. He was a master at doing it. Now, knowing that, I don't even know that I can speculate on what a second term looks like. I mean, he's coming in in a very different situation. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch. So I couldn't tell you. My first thought is, it's too easy to say, oh, the market will go up. It's way too easy for just to say that and assume that. Markets are generally not that easy to figure out. So, but then again, he is market friendly, and he gives the drug addict what it needs, which is drugs, and the market or whatever it needs to get to go higher. So, I don't think that there is a whole lot there's not a whole lot of what's going on in the markets right now. It's not tied to Trump by any stretch. Like I said, they're tied neck and neck, which I find that hard to believe. But politics and whatever it is get your popcorn out, because it's going to get interesting. And I guess it'll be interesting too. I think the last time I heard, I really haven't been plugged into it because there hasn't been anything really to watch. But it seems like that the Democrats are going to control the Congress and everything. So, he won't be able to do anything except by executive order. And it'll be interesting. I'll tell you what will be very interesting is to watch all the various wars that are going on, and if the U.S. gets sucked into one and how he responds. But once circling back around, what my concern though is that people are not taking risk seriously. When I manage money, that's one of the first things that I look at is what's the risk level, because I have a belief that if I manage money for risk, that the growth will come. It's a much better situation than you getting in and just riding the roller coaster of the stock market. I've never believed, or let me say, I'll say I've never believed. I used to believe in that up until probably the first 8 years of my career as a financial advisor when I started in 1992. In fact, last week I had my 32nd anniversary. And it wasn't until we got into 2000, the tech bust, that I started looking at everything very differently, started studying what I didn't know, what nobody was talking about. And from there, really have gotten into the history and the functions of what the market does. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. But I truly believe, and even take a step further, that it's a stewardship issue to have a strategy for risk, a plan B. So there we go. There you have it. That is what has been on my mind. And also keeping eyes on the bond market, where interest rates are going to go. Obviously, another interesting story to watch is what the Fed will or will not do. I personally believe that they, even though they may cut a quarter or a 0.5% off, it won't be any more than that before the elections. That would be unprecedented if they did that. I don't think any Federal Reserve has cut rates this close to an election. So, in fact, if Trump gets elected, a lot of what he does will be very inflationary. So I think that's got to be in the back of their mind as well. So listen, if you've got a question for me, you can go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com, send it in. And if you ever want to talk about what I do for a living, I can't do this on the radio because it's nonprofit. And if you just and if you want information about what I do for a living, which is manage money, I'm a financial advisor. I work with clients on a day-to-day basis. And love what I do. Feel like a blessing to get to do what I get to do, and I guess probably the greatest thing I get to do is help solve problems, whether it be investments, debt, or whatever you're dealing with. So just send me an email or send an email to info@, prudentmoney.com or straight to me, bob@prudentmoney.com. And one of the things I was thinking about doing, I'm trying to wrap this up. This is actually gone as long as a radio show. I was thinking about doing a once a week program on just a review, a shorter one than this has turned out to be, but a review of the week and what has happened. Talk a little bit about the different shows and what we talked about and what you might want to tune into if you're picking and choosing. I know a lot of people can't listen to 5 shows and digest all this material. But give me some feedback on that. info@prudentmoney.com, and let me know what you think about doing a weekend review type podcast that is not on the radio. It's strictly for those of you who listen to podcasts. And I appreciate you signing up to listen to the podcast. And if you would, on the platform that you're on, if you would do me a favor and like the podcast, I would appreciate it. Well, this is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.